Hey guys, Chris from HockeyTutorial.com here, and today we're back with the 2021 Hockey Gear Awards. Now if you remember last year, roughly about the same time as now, we dropped the first Hockey Tutorial Awards where we looked at all of the manufacturers and brands in hockey that have been making the biggest strides in our industry, creating the best products and essentially generally just killing it over the course of the last year or so. What we like to do with this end of year video is essentially give them credit and give them an award for the manufacturers that have done the most over the course of the last year in various different categories. Now, if you haven't seen the original video, I will link that down below and also up above. Make sure you watch the Hockey Award video from the previous year so you can see how this whole thing is structured, how it works before you watch this one. But before we jump in, please consider giving the video a thumbs up because it really does help out the channel. It brings more eyes to the channel. It allows us to grow. It helps out that YouTube algorithm, which really does help us out. So if you haven't done so, please consider giving the video a thumbs up. And of course, if you're not subscribed, because a lot of you that watch our videos and keep coming back aren't actually subscribed, it really does help the channel out. It helps us grow. It helps us be able to sustain and do all of the cool things that you see on the channel. So please consider thumbing up the video. That sounds weird, but you know what I mean. And also consider subscribing. Let's jump into the video. So to kick this off, we're going to be looking at the categories we have for the 2021 Hockey Awards. Now those categories include, the first one that we're going to be looking at, which is a new one, is the Design Award. Now this award is going to be awarded to the company that has essentially been absolutely slaying it with various different designs, whether they're for us to be able to buy as consumers or they're one-off pieces or custom pieces for events or to celebrate certain things that have happened. We're going to be introducing a new one, which is the Design Award. From there, we're going to be looking at the Best Stick of 2021. Of course, we're also going to be looking at the Best Skates of 2021. And from there, we're also going to be looking at another new category, which is the Best Bag of 2021. From there, it's going to be the Apparel Brand of the Year. We've also got the Most Improved Company of the Year. Of course, we're also going to be bringing back the Redemption Award. Next up is going to be the Best Innovation of 2021. We've also brought back the Humanization Award, which goes to the company that's essentially done the best job of humanizing their brand, so it doesn't just seem like a corporate office posting out material. So that's definitely going to be an important one. And another new category is going to be the Best Hockey Blades or Runners of the Year. And lastly, but of course not least, is going to be the Most Accessible Training Product of the Year. So let's jump into it. So when we're looking at the Design Award, what does that include? So over the course of the last year or so, we've seen all of the different hockey manufacturers, the mainstream hockey manufacturers, create some pretty insane designs. The ones that kind of stick out without me having to kind of like look back through Instagram history is going to be Bauer with the World Juniors sticks and also skates that they created. Those essentially caused so much hype online. I remember getting tagged in thousands of posts from various different people that follow the channel, whether it was on Twitter, whether it was on Instagram, also on YouTube, to take a look at these new designs that Bauer dropped. Essentially, they created custom flag sticks and also skates for the athletes that were participating in the World Juniors. It was a really simple thing for them to do, and when you go to the pro skate factories in Montreal where all of their skates are made, both CCM and Bauer, it's incredibly easy for them to adapt their skates to create these bespoke or one-off designs. But a lot of these manufacturers don't kind of really go in when they make these designs. They don't go full send. They try to keep it fairly simple. They don't want to go too extreme with the colors because we know as hockey players, a lot of us kind of want things to stay traditional, but I absolutely love it when they go ham with what they create. And I felt like that's what Bauer did. Although you could see what skate it was, the skates essentially kind of looked unrecognizable because of the artwork that was splashed around the entire quarter package. They did a phenomenal job of this with the skates especially, but also the sticks. In addition to this, we also saw Bauer introducing different color options for the skates that they already had, specifically looking at the ultrasonic line of skates. They allowed you to not just go with the default colors, you could select a bunch of different colors that they had. It wasn't as crazy as the flags, but it was really cool to see that. In addition to this, as you guys know, I've got one of the skates over there, the other one is in the shelf just behind me as well. We saw Bauer introduce the custom Willie O'Ree skates that only a select few NHL players got, and for an insane reason, we managed to get a pair of those skates as well, which I still can't believe it to this day. I'm yet to put them on the ice, but those again were just unbelievable. I'm just trying to kind of look at the design element and the fact that Bauer, for another time, absolutely slayed designing something that we hadn't seen before. But when we look at other companies as well, like CCM, they did a stellar job as well of creating some pretty unique designs. Now, when we look at the gold skates that they dropped, although these weren't like a pair of skates that would be easily accessible to pretty much anyone, I'm still trying to get a pair, and if I do, of course, you guys will be the first to know. But they had a completely gold set of CCM FT4 Pros, which were insane. The holders looked nuts, the boot itself looked nuts. It was just something incredibly loud that we hadn't seen before. I don't think I've ever seen a gold pair of top-end skates from a big manufacturer. If you guys have, please correct me in the comments below. But from there, we also saw CCM introducing their own version of the flag skates, which they dropped quite recently. The designs weren't as loud as what we saw on Bauer's version, but it was still really cool to see them do that. In addition to this, we've seen CCM create one-off designs for Men's Health that Austin Matthews, I believe, got a pair of, which were the silver FT4 Pros. I'm pretty sure they were FT4 Pros that had the Movember and like kind of Men's Health awareness. The logoing, the branding on those skates was insane. But again, just seeing those unique designs was incredibly awesome. And in more recent times, we've seen other manufacturers stepping out and doing things that we didn't really expect to ever see happen. A big name that I've got to drop over here is going to be Sherwood. It's a company that we've not really interacted with for a very long time, but we still do take note of what they're doing, especially when they do something as sick as a collaboration with OVO, October's very own. Massive fan of Drake. So seeing them drop a custom stick for goalie and also players that had all of the OVO branding, the pucks, I think there was some bags and swag as well. It was just a very unexpected thing to see linked to ice hockey, because obviously I know Drake is really big into basketball, but seeing a collaboration with his brand and an ice hockey brand, both being Canadian, I guess it does make sense, but it was just a really nice thing to see them drop, and it just looked dope as hell. But of course, after saying all of that, we can only award one brand or manufacturer for absolutely killing it over the course of the last year or so. I think without even having to argue the point, that has to go to Bauer. Bauer have done an insane job time and time again of coming back with insane designs. Whether you're a big supporter of the company and the brand or not, it's fair to say that they are the ones that have absolutely slayed it when it comes to creating custom designs or just creating things that we've just never seen before. So without arguing, that award 100% or unequivocally goes to Bauer. Now moving on from there, we're going to be looking at the best stick of 2021. Now, this is always a tricky category because, as we know, different sticks have different performance benefits. Now, when I say that, I prefaced the previous video that we did with this exact same sort of sentence where I mentioned the fact that different sticks have different characteristics that are made to help the stick perform better when you look at specific types of shots on the ice. That's not to say any stick can't take a slap shot, any stick can't take a wrist shot. Just some of these sticks are optimized to take certain shots better than others. But you can do whatever you want with the sticks, so just bear that in mind when I mention this. Now, over the course of the last year or so, we have used every single stick that you can think of from every major manufacturer on the planet. Now, although that doesn't always make it onto video, the reason for that comes down to two things. It might be a case of we've used the stick, maybe it's broken or been passed on to somebody else, we don't have it, and we've not been able to get another one from the manufacturers because perhaps the manufacturers, maybe they don't want us to look at the products, maybe they don't want to collaborate with us, which we have seen in the past before. It's not something that we complain about because, of course, we can just go online, buy the product ourselves, and make a video for you guys. But that brings us to the second point, which is the requests. At the end of the day, we make these videos for you guys, and if we don't get requests about a product that you guys want to see or a manufacturer, then we don't really try and chase it up, because at the end of the day, we want to give you the videos that you want to see, and if you're not requesting them, we just assume that you don't want them. And in terms of all of the manufacturers that we look at, you can probably guess that over the last 12 months or so, there is a very clear absence of True and Warrior from the channel. Now, this isn't because we have anything against True or Warrior, it's just because we just don't get requests to make those videos. If you want that to change, please comment down below. But we have used all of their current sticks, so just bear that in mind when you watch this video. We're not only just kind of using CCM and Bauer, we do use the other ones, we just don't make the videos all the time just because of the reasons I've mentioned here. But looking back at all of the sticks that both Tommy and myself have used, I think the all-round stick that has gotten the most hype and also has been just the best all-round performing in terms of the way it performs on the ice, the way it handles various shots, whether it's slap shots, one-timers, wrist shots, snap shots, even just the feel for stick handling with the puck, and also most importantly, the durability of the stick. I think unequivocally that has to go to the Trigger 6 Pro from CCM's Ripcore range. This stick is essentially what we call an all-performing stick. It doesn't matter what type of shot you like to take on the ice. The Trigger 6 Pro excels well in all avenues, in all aspects. It's the reason that it's the stick that we've had to kind of like put our hands up and be like, that is the #1 stick of 2021, because it just seemed to outperform every other stick that we have used to date. Now, of course, we don't know what's coming in the future. This could change, but as of when this video is being filmed, the best stick of 2021 is the Trigger 6 Pro from CCM. Now moving on from there, it's going to be a big one, which is the best skate of 2021. Now again, this is always a tricky one because back in the day, I say that anyone watching this video that's older than me is probably going to be laughing about me saying back in the day as a 32-year-old man. But back in the day, when you were selecting a pair of skates, you didn't really have the choice if you were doing it properly. You had to go with the skates that were the best in terms of your level of performance on the ice. And then from there, it would also be the ones that were the most comfortable for you to be able to get your feet into. But in terms of sizing, that's completely changed over the course of the last year or so, because all manufacturers, or the major manufacturers, have introduced new sizing that essentially means you as a player can select whichever family of skate that you want based on the features and performance benefits, instead of having to solely rely on which one was more narrow, which one was more wide. That now doesn't exist with the new fit system that both CCM and Bauer have introduced. Now that means that essentially now a skate being the best skate of 2021 comes down to, we could look at various things, but the way that we've split it down to is going to be the general performance of the skate, the features that the skate has, the weight, and most importantly, again, the durability of how that skate performs over the course of a season or a year. And when we're looking back at all of the skates that we've used, which includes all of the fit families from CCM, all of the fit families from Bauer, there's only 2 now, but still have to mention that. And also, we've also looked at True. That is a brand that you guys probably think that we don't touch, but we have looked at True. The reason that you don't see them too heavily on the channel is because in terms of the way that their skates are designed, the finish of the skates, the end product that you get as a consumer, the features that it has, compared to what we're seeing from CCM and Bauer, I personally feel that respectfully, I don't think that they can keep up with what we see from CCM and Bauer. True's USP, or their unique selling point back in the day, was the fact that it was a custom skate that anyone could get at a retail level, which was something that didn't exist when True dropped what they dropped. But now, of course, CCM and Bauer offer custom across all of the ranges of skates that they have, or the families of skates that they have, which essentially makes it very difficult to say that you would select a True now over what CCM and Bauer are packing with the features, the weight, the performance, the finish. All of these things I feel like True is not on par with Bauer and CCM to date, and it's why that you don't see us VSing them against what we see from Bauer and CCM quite so much as we used to a few years back. But just saying that, I've used essentially all of the major skates that are out there to date, and the pair that I feel, or the 2 pairs that I feel that have stood out the most, is going to be the Ultrasonics from the Bauer Supreme range and the CCM FT4 Pros. Those 2, in my opinion, are the best skates that you can pick up to date. Of course, the Ultrasonics are much older than what we see from CCM in the case of the FT4 Pros, but they're still an absolute insane pair of skates. They're the ones that I gravitate towards the most. But if we're looking at it from which is the best, I have to give that award to CCM for the FT4 Pros. When we look at a complete skate that has everything in terms of its durability, its lightness, its performance, the way it feels on the ice, the runners that are on that skate as well, the technology that's been packed into that skate, it has to go to the CCM FT4 Pros. Out of all the skates that have been dropped, including the AS3 Pros, the 100K Pros, the Hyperlights, having used all of them, the ones that stand out the most in terms of performance and durability is definitely going to be the FT4 Pros. And of course, looking at it from a performance and durability point of view, we can't also forget about the look. I feel like the FT4 Pros are one of the best looking skates that we've ever seen. This shouldn't be a reason that you pick one skate over another, but it's something that I do have to mention because the way a product looks in hockey is a big deal. If it looks like crap, you can't really say people are going to be jumping on board and buying it. I typically don't care about what the product looks like, it's how it performs and how it feels, but I do have to say that the FT4 Pros are an insanely good looking skate. So moving on from there pretty swiftly, now we're going to be looking at the best bag of 2021. Now you guys know that I'm a big bag fan. Like if there was something, if you could refer to me as a gear nerd for bags, that would honestly be a thing. I have in this office every single major manufacturer bag that you've seen, whether it's Pacific Rink, the entire range from Conway & Banks, the entire range for Pacific Rink as well. I've got everything from Grip, from the goalie bags, the tower bags, the airbox bags. We have every single bag you can possibly think of. I typically don't tend to go for the bags from the hockey manufacturers themselves like CCM or Bauer, because I feel like a lot of the bags that they have is essentially just a sack with just one big space that you throw all your stuff into. There are a couple of variations they've created, but I feel like they get that inspiration from the manufacturers that specifically make bags that we've already just mentioned. So if I'm looking at a bag, I typically like to go with the manufacturer that makes bags as the main thing that they make, not like a side product that they make. And the 3 main manufacturers that I think need to be given a mention is definitely going to be Pacific Rink, Conway & Banks, and also Grit. They're the ones that make the best hockey bags that you can get to date. But of course, we can only pick one. And the main thing that kind of makes me go for one over the other, you guessed it, is going to be breathability. Airflow, breathability, being able to dry your equipment without having to take everything out of the bag is a big deal. And it's essentially the only reason that Pacific Rink aren't going to be winning this award, because if they had a bag that was breathable, trust me, they would be the ones winning it. I know they do have holes at the bottom of their bags, but their airflow is nowhere near on par with Grit or with Conway and Banks. And if you're thinking about Conway and Banks being affiliated with the Mighty Ducks because of the name, you're absolutely right. That's where the name comes from. But in my ideal world, a bag needs to be breathable. It needs to have storage dividers that can be removed or connected up, but breathability is the main thing. And next to that is going to be how long the bag lasts, how much of a beating it can take. And for that reason, I'm 100% going to have to give this award to Conway and Banks. Conway and Banks over the last year or so have done an incredible job of creating bags that are not only practical, that are not only low-key, that you can move through like an airport without having a bag that screams, I have ice hockey equipment inside me, but also bags that are breathable, that are organized, that are very clear to be able to see everything inside. And that's the reason we have to go with them. I feel like they've been making incredible strides, and the fact that they are a company that make bags specifically, they make other products now in terms of merch and apparel, but their main bread and butter is the awesome hockey bags that they make. But that's not to discredit Grit as well. They are another fantastic bag manufacturer. They do a lot of interesting bags, some that are very, very popular. I'm actually using a Grit bag right now if you watch the Lost in the Bag video. But overall, the brand that I feel like has made the most strides in terms of the bags that they create and adopting the whole notion of breathability has to go to Conway and Banks. From there, we're going to be taking a look at the Redemption Award. So a company that did something that maybe wasn't too hot, maybe didn't get executed too well, but came back with something that kind of made you forget about what they did previously. And this year, without going into too much context, it's going to have to go to Sherwood. Now, we saw a previous stick from Sherwood, which is the Code V. The execution of that stick release, the way that the stick looked, it was definitely something that you wouldn't expect from a company like Sherwood. I've always kind of linked them to being very traditional with their designs and the colors that they use on their products. Code V was definitely something that was way out there. I'm not so sure that it was executed so well, but then of course, after kind of like the hype from that died down and nobody was kind of talking about the Code V, they just went quiet for a bit and then came back with this OVO release. It was something that I didn't see coming. I would have never in a million years have expected the OVO brand to work with an ice hockey brand. I'm glad that it's happened, but of course we have to give the Redemption Award because of that kind of like not so well executed Code V launch, and then the crazy announcement that they made with the OVO branding and the 2 sticks that they dropped for goalies and players, as well as all of the other memorabilia and merch they dropped as well. Very well done. Redemption Award goes to Sherwood Hockey. From there, it's going to be the most improved company of 2021. Now, this is a really tricky one to do because it's very, very difficult to be able to say these guys have worked harder than these guys or these guys have done more. It's not really a case of saying that. It's just at this particular time, over the last 12 months, who's done the most damage in terms of converting players that might not have been in their products into their products. And if you ask me, from what I've seen, from what I've been reading, from the inbox messages that I've been getting, that award has to go to CCM for the 2021 period. I feel like when we look back at the last year, CCM has dropped some pretty unique products that have really done well. If we're looking at the FT4 Pros, the 100K Pros, the FT4 stick range as well, we can't forget about that, and also the Ribcore sticks with the Trigger 6 Pro. I feel like that being the stick of 2021 is saying a lot from what we saw previously. Before the Trigger 6 was around, if you asked me what the best stick was, I would have said the Hyperlight, but the Trigger 6 has kind of blown everything out of the water, so it has to go to CCM. But of course, a really important point to make is that although CCM win right now, we don't know what's going to be coming in the next few months from Bauer or from any of the other manufacturers, and that could flip the scale yet again. What this means is that in terms of being a consumer and a hockey player, this is the best time to be a consumer in the hockey world because manufacturers are making products better than they have ever made them before. So if you're a consumer, you're out there buying, you're reaping the benefits of these manufacturers battling against each other to create the best protective, to create the best stick, to create the best helmet. When they're going head to head like this, and it's so close between CCM and Bauer right now, it means that we win because they're working as hard as they can to make the best gear, and we get to reap the benefits of that. So it's a phenomenal time to be a consumer and a player because we're seeing products that we've never seen before. And when we wait until we see what's coming early of 2022, God knows what's going to win then. From there, it's going to be the best innovation of 2021. Now, there's so many different products that have been dropped. There's so many products that have been used over the course of 2021 that we really like. Sparks comes to mind, Blade Barber comes to mind. There's so many different accessories and different products out there that allow us to do what we do on the ice, or even just maintaining our equipment, so much better than if you went back a few years ago when none of these products existed. But in terms of what I feel like has made the biggest strides for 2021, it's going to be the company Marsblade with their ice holder. I feel like that holder is something truly new that we hadn't seen previously on the ice. We all know about Marsblade's inline chassis, which was an incredible upgrade from what we would see with the standard fixed chassis. I'm a big fan of their inline chassis. I have a pair myself. If you saw my custom skate collection video or my skate collection video, there was a pair of them in that. But it was incredible to see them move that technology onto the ice. The logic behind creating a product of that nature, when you actually research it and learn about it, it makes a lot of sense, and it is a wonder why it's not a holder that's been adopted by more players. I am interested to see in how quickly or how difficult it is to switch out one of those blades if you're to break a runner. Of course, this is something that I know that they've considered, but I'd like to see how that VS's against what we see from the trigger system from Bauer and the dial system from CCM. Now, if you want to see a video on these ice holders, we have come across them, we have messed around with them, but we're yet to create a video. Please comment down below, because we would love to create something where we really go in depth about how they compare to the other traditional holders that we're used to seeing on the ice. But in terms of the best innovation of 2021, I feel like Marsblade with their ice holder definitely has to get this award. Now, next up is going to be the Humanization Award. Now, this award goes to the company that have done the best job of essentially humanizing their appearance online to us as consumers. Because a lot of brands can be very guilty of seeming like faceless machines that just churn out content that's quite generic. It definitely feels like it's being done by people that aren't really connected with the hockey community and the way that we post online today. A lot of brands have been humanizing themselves by not only just posting their athletes and their products, but also including people in their community. Last year, the award went to the NHL because they did a phenomenal job of making themselves feel more of like a home for the hockey community rather than an entity in a corporate machine. So that was really, really nice to see them do. This year, I think, without even needing to argue it, that has to go to Bauer. Over the course of the last 12 months, especially during times where parts of the world were still locked down, Bauer have just done a phenomenal job of really including their community in what they post. Even if it comes down to selecting their brand ambassadors, we've seen a lot more faces on their posts that aren't pro athletes, that aren't NHL players, which is always really refreshing to see. I feel like Bauer have done a really good job of humanizing the Bauer brand over the course of the last year, especially over the course of the last few months. And it's just really refreshing to see. It's something that does stand out when you see it online, because you just feel like the posts are more human, they're more relatable, they're more normal. Whereas some of the other brands can be a little bit guilty of really posting the generic, here's an NHL player doing this, here's an NHL player doing that, here's our product in an NHL game. Whereas Bauer have done a really good job of putting it down to the community, especially with their involvement of other influencers in the hockey industry. That doesn't include myself, but it's still so refreshing to see what they've been doing with some of the other influencers like Always Hockey and also the Nasher. It's just been really nice to see the way that they've been including all of these different influencers in the material that they create, in the campaigns that they launch. It's been incredibly refreshing to see. So the Humanization Award for 2021 goes to Bauer. Now, next up is going to be the best apparel brand. Now, of course, there are so many apparel brands in hockey. So many different companies making great hats, hoodies, jumpers, pretty much anything that you can put on your body. But I kind of like to look away from the generic names that we're always used to seeing, because I feel like some of them can be really guilty of creating designs that are incredibly loud. Whereas I feel like, for my personal taste and a lot of the players that I skate with, I don't want to wear something that has pucks and hockey sticks all over it that at a glance you can clearly see is something relating to ice hockey. I like designs that are a little bit more subtle, designs that you kind of have to stare at for a little bit to figure out that it is affiliated with hockey. But aside from that, I also like companies that use fabrics that aren't, your generic fabrics that you'd find from any t-shirt printing company, that are super thin, feel like they have no quality. If you put them in a tumble dryer, they'll shrink. So for me, I always like to look away from the mainstreams, and maybe even companies that come from Europe as opposed to North America. A brand that I've really been enjoying the stuff from is based in Germany, and they're called Rinksuit. Now, of course, this is a very opinionated selection. Me giving the award for best apparel to Rinksuit based in Germany, it's just because I love the way that they interact with their community on social media, the way that they respond to messages, the posts that they create, the way that they respond to emails even. They just seem like a really great, friendly bunch of people that are creating really interesting designs. And the fact that they're based in Germany, which although has a very thriving hockey scene and very elite level players and pro teams, it's not a typical hockey nation, especially if you're from North America. If you hear Germany, you might not think crazy elite league hockey brands, but there is an insane hockey scene in Germany. And I don't mean to spoil, but we are definitely going to be checking that out in 2022. But I've just been having a really good time using their merch, using their hats, their t-shirts. The quality of what they create is great. And just the team behind them has what's made me kind of feel so relatable to them. So the apparel brand of 2021 that I've definitely got to give a mention to and give the award to is Rinxu, based in Germany. And moving on from there, of course, a category that we didn't have last year that we had to bring into this year is going to be the best hockey blades or runners of 2021. A lot of people like to refer to it as steel as well, but I call it blades or runners, so deal with that. In terms of all of the manufacturers that are out there, we have used everything that you can think of, every single brand that's out there. The only ones that we haven't kind of given a lot of attention to because they're not really specific for hockey is Flare Blades, but we have essentially used every single major manufacturer that makes runners that you can think of that's out there. And the ones that time and time again win because of the designs that they're able to create, the fact that they have health benefits to their runners and also performance benefits, has to go unequivocally to Bladetech Hockey. Now, we've done a bunch of videos about what they do, the benefits, how it works, the options that you have with custom. These guys, in my opinion, are the absolute kings when you look at blades or runners in hockey as a whole. When you're looking at not just one specific element, you're looking at all of them put together. Bladetech are the ones that execute time and time again. It's the preferred ones that we use. They're very, very quickly growing, and I'm seeing them more and more everywhere that I go, even in England. So the award for the best hockey runners or blades of 2021 goes to Bladetech. The last and final award of the 2021 Hockey Awards is going to be the best and most accessible off-ice training product. I feel like it's going to be a very difficult one. This is again going to be a joint award. I feel like it's going to be almost impossible to dethrone these two companies, and that's Hockey Wraparound and the Green Biscuit. In terms of most accessible being a price point that is fairly reasonable for essentially players from all over the world to be able to pick up, I feel like these two companies are just the kings of most accessible off-ice products that you can use to train with. Although there are phenomenal products that are out there like Mars Blade, Glycis synthetic panels, the goals that you can get from Winwell, and also the custom goals that you can get from Winwell that we featured on a bunch of videos, the various inline skates that are out there, the price point creeps up and up and up. Although these products are phenomenal, and a lot of companies make tiles like Hockey Revolutions, they make a bunch of different training apparatus that you can buy to practice your skills. The problem is the price. Not all of them are very cost effective. And when you want to get the best product and also the most cost effective one, the Wraparound and the Green Biscuit are just the kings of this. I'm not sure it's possible to dethrone them. So again, for the second year in a row, the winners of the best and most accessible off-ice training product goes to the Green Biscuit and Hockey Wraparound. Now this brings us to the end of the video. Hopefully you've enjoyed this, looking back at what's been dropped over the course of the last year or so. Who are the manufacturers and brands that we feel have been absolutely slaying it, making the biggest strides in the game? I do have to mention that if there's anything in this video that you disagree with, any of the categories that we've selected, please make sure you comment down below and let us know why. If you agree, please let us know that you do agree. And if you don't, let us know in the comment section why. And of course, in addition to that, if there's any categories that you feel we need to add for the next year, we've had a lot of comments and conversations about cost-effective sticks, cost-effective equipment, or budget equipment. If that's a category that you want to see, we'll try and figure out the best way to implement it into the series, but leave your thoughts down below in the video description. And of course, before we wrap, just wanted to say a big thank you for rocking with us for another year. We'll see you back in 2022 for an insane lineup of videos. Big thank you guys, stay safe, and we'll catch you in 2022. Peace.